business did you start thinking about hiring, and what was going on?
So last year at Augusta, through our command center where we do all the admin work for the owners, we hired just over 1,000 people. And so when we look at when to hire someone, it's a matter of when you can replace that time with something else that's higher leverage and higher skill inside the business. And so when it comes to home services, if you're out doing the work, you're doing a task that's potentially $25, $30 an hour task. And so if you can do sales, it's likely that task, if you were to replace a salesperson, would be a $30 or $40 an hour task. And so the question is, well, which one should I do? I'm going to fill my schedule with a $25 hour task, i.e. doing the work. And then once that is complete, I have my schedule's filled, and to everyone's point, it's like, hey, I got too busy. Then it's like, well, what's the next skill that's highest leverage in the business? And usually that moves to a sales or an operations or an admin related role. And then we move into that role, and it's like, well, I'm gonna fill my schedule doing that. Well, now if I move into sales full time, I potentially have 6 to 8 people out in the field doing the work. I'm now being a full-time salesperson, and then the same thing will occur. Okay, well, now I'm tapped out, I'm doing sales all day long, I have leads coming in, I'm doing the marketing. I'm gonna go hire a salesperson, I'm gonna move to a higher leverage opportunity inside the business, which many times revolves around operations, leadership, being a CEO. Now you can have 10, 20, 30, 40 people working underneath you. So it's just, you're moving up the ladder of skill, and many times the reason we don't grow is because we hold on to what we are familiar with. And so we are good at doing the fences, we are good at doing the pools, therefore we stay doing that instead of learning the new skill to level up the business, which many times for the vast majority of solopreneurs or small businesses is learning the game of sales.
Right. A little bit of E-Myth and Dan Martell in there, right? I like that. So, amazing. I can see why Eric is a fanboy over all that stuff. I like that. If you could do something all over again, if you can actually prepare to hire your first, second, or third person, but put things in place, system-wise, leadership-wise, things like that. Think of the mistakes you've made. How would you do it differently this time? What would you prepare for? What systems would you put in place? What leadership skills should you develop?
I would say, just like you said, a system. Just because it is frustrating, especially in the beginning, you devote so much time and energy training that person, and you expect that they're going to do just like you do, just as well as you do. And the truth is, they won't do it like you're showing them. And also, too, there's, a slight chance that they won't stick around. And so I think the good idea of having some systems is, here's a training manual, here's a guideline. Go down the guidelines, and you learn what we expect you to do. That way it takes a little bit off your plate training someone. And then as you go through certain people, you can always adjust those guidelines. Okay, this was a mistake. I can, this is maybe too much in the beginning. Let's just stick to A, B, and C. And then the following week we go to, the other steps. So, yeah, I think having that standard allows you to kind of compare, okay, this is what most people, their pace, this is how fast that they'll learn. So you can compare, okay, hey, this guy's doing really good. He's moving through A, B, and C within 2 days, as opposed to the last guy took a week. And so kind of, people go different speeds, so it kind of lets you see how they compare with the other ones.
Yeah, their ability to, their skills and their ability to catch on to systems. I like what you said about a system, because a lot of times as solopreneurs, to your point, Andy, our systems are floating here. We've been doing it ourselves for so long. How many can relate to that? We know the systems because we're the ones doing it, right? But when it comes to hiring, we get frustrated because it's like, okay, I want you to do this, and this. And the guy's like, okay, great, but then they have their own definition of what this, and this means, right? So I like that. The systems are actually evolved, right? We write that down, and then we see how our team does it. Sometimes we have to adjust it. There's things that we miss when we do that. So I like that. Thank you. Anybody else want to hit that question? Answer.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit later about creating a system specifically for hiring. However, I think, I don't know how many people are here are religious, but I am, so. We say, do unto others what you would have them do unto you. And so I think sometimes when it comes to hiring and HR related things, the number one question is boil it down to the basics of what looks like a good interview to you. What looks like a good onboarding process to you? And many times we've had other jobs and you know, like, okay, would I want to show up to an interview and them not be ready for me? Would they not, and then not know my name? Would I want to feel welcomed by whoever I walk into the office for that interview? When I come for my first day of work, like, would I want my office room prepared? Would I want my truck ready to go? Would I want my uniform ready? Would I want already to have my account inside the CRM instead of them fumbling around trying to figure it out? And then that's how you can just create the checklist. It's like, here's what I would like to have on an onboarding process. For example, everyone gets a 30-page handbook of systems, because like everyone went and said, hey, I have a hiring system, so I'm gonna have a 30-page employee handbook. And yes, we have one too. Everything from like lactation breaks to like every little thing you can think of. They've got to sign that. Mostly protecting the company legally. Right. But what's important is no one reads it. And so the question is, well, what is important in that 30-page document that they actually want to know is like, who do I talk to when I'm sick in the morning and I want to call out? Like, what does late look like here? Is it 1 minute late? Is it 5 minutes early? How do I make more money here? Who gets promoted? Like, what's the pecking order here? That's what people actually care about. So what we've done is, yes, we do the 30-page signature on DocuSign. Great. First day, it's a 4-page document, and we're going to read every single line with them. And it's all the thing that you usually figure out from other coworkers in the first 1 to 2 weeks. All the little things they want to know, and what do we do during the off season? Like, is there overtime? Can I work on the weekends? Can I take a truck home? All these little things that they want to know. We try to spell that out, and then everyone signs on it. But the blocking and tackling, like creating that system, is many times just like, what looks good? Like, what job have you gone to and the interview went well? What happened? Which ones were not good? Oh, don't do those things. I think that's an easy principle to kind of live by.
That's amazing. I like that. What I got out of that was, a lot of times when we're hiring, we make that whole process about us, about how we want things done, how we want all that kind of stuff. But I really like what Mike said is, a lot of times when especially if we want a qualified person, a quality person, a lot of them, they're thinking, what's in it for me, right? And to take the time to have an onboarding process, and even before the onboarding process, the hiring process, finding the right person, and then really just making it about them and having them buy into something.
Nobody likes to play a game without knowing the rules. And the failures I've had in my first hires is there was no clear KPIs, key performance indicators. There were no rules to the game. It was hopefully they're going to follow that 30-page document that I had chat write up for me just so I didn't get sued in California.
That's right.
And as I hired more and refined my team, there's a very clear 1/2 page set of rules and KPIs for the position that I've hired for, and they get rewarded for playing by the rules and winning at the game. Having a clear set of, this is what I expect of you, and this is what you can expect of me.
Before you two, I had a hand back there. You have a question?
I think part of the beginning when you hire somebody, the introduction to the entire team is important. So if I'm bringing somebody in, I would like to come in and say, okay, this is Kate, this is what she does. And that first day, I think they're going to feel very valued, and then they're going to know when they see you, hey, I know Javier does this, I know Kate does this, so I think that's very important to do that at the beginning.
Right. And so for those of you maybe online that haven't heard that, he was saying it's really important on the first day through the onboarding process to introduce that person to every single member of the team by name. And I like what you said too, like maybe preparing everybody to like greet them by name, to make them feel very, very welcomed and accepted into the team. Do you want to tackle the question I had?
Yeah, it kind of depends on the role you're looking for, in my opinion. If you're looking for someone to, compliance will attract B players. And so if I am going to create rigid lines for every little thing they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do, you will attract employees. And there will be lower paid employees. If you're looking for an all-star, absolute crush killer, the 1% unicorn that we all want, most of the time compliance drives them away. They could take your job. They have the ability to do that. They are a unicorn. And given the right resources or circumstances, they would probably be a business owner. And if you want to attract that type of person, which again, sometimes you don't want this person, by the way. Right. So sometimes compliance is actually what you're looking for. And being really clear in terms of like, am I trying to hire someone that is going to comply by the rules? Or am I trying to find the person that's going to run this business for me and take it to the next level? Because the person the latter, the 1%er that's going to sell on every job, upsell, going to basically operate like this is their own business, they want less rules. They want to be able to know the goal and just run towards it. And so if you're going after that person, what I would say, which again, the vast majority of us do need just compliance. Let me be clear on that. And so it's a different demographic of person. But the winners in the organizations I built is any rule I give them just slows them down. And I want to say, here's the goal, here's the goal posts, here's the ball, which is all resources, go. As soon as I start putting definitions on that, it slows them down and makes them frustrated, and then you leave the organization. So if you have a lot of churn of your best people, because a lot of times, if you have a high compliance environment and culture, you will simply attract every B player that wants to be told what to do.
Right.
A players do not want to be told what to do. And you're like, well, how do you know that? Do you want to be told what to do? Are you an A player? Likely.
Entrepreneurs, answer that question.
And so if you want,
What to do.
and so the only way to keep that type of person in your organization is to make it friendly to entrepreneurial people and make entrepreneurs inside the organization. And so I'd just be careful, especially as you begin to go above a labor, once you go to manager or any sort of level above that, or you want a general manager to run the business essentially, and you're giving them profit sharing, I give them less and less definition as what good looks like, and I simply say, I want this result. And when you're an app CTO, it's like, I want to make a lot of money. Let's be honest. And so here's the goalpost, go.
Yep. I was going to ask you, what positions do you start moving? And you just answered that question. You said something very interesting. You said churn. There's a churn rate. Can you explain what churn means?
Yeah, so when it comes to customers, when we're looking at recurring customers, we're looking at how many customers are leaving every month, usually due to bad quality, bad service, they're frustrated by something, et cetera. The same thing is true when it comes to our employees, because every single day, we have to sell them on showing up to work.
Boom.
And so if we lose that customer, quote unquote, which is now in this case a member of the team, that churn costs you a lot of money, and it's something that it's very difficult to measure, the cost of churn, but it is eating away at your profit margins.
Yes. When you have to rehire, that definitely eats your profit margins. So I asked that question because it leads me to the next question, retention. I mean, when we find that A player, that unicorn, that even if it is a compliance person, but they're doing very, very well at it, because sometimes the first couple positions that we hire will be a little bit more of the compliance, the admin, the helper, those type of things, right? Retention is huge because you even said it, like it gets frustrating when they don't show up and all that kind of stuff. So how do you create an environment and a culture that really motivates your team to stay with you?
Yeah, like, so for me, I always ask the question again, like, really try to make this simple. Why do you stay in the business? Well, I make more money. Okay, great. What are their goals? And then how do we align the goals of the business with theirs? Because if they're getting ahead in their life, whether it be financially or achieving their goals, they'll want to stay as long as that aligns with the goals of the business. And so, in my opinion, the vast majority of us will hire people, we will be frustrated by them because they don't work as fast as us, they don't think about the customer as much as us, they don't make sure the customer is satisfied, they don't upsell the customer, they don't treat our tools and equipment correctly. And the reason they don't act like an owner is because they do not have the information of an owner or the compensation of an owner. And so if you can fix those two things, you can get employees to act very closely to how you act. And so the vast majority, when it comes to labor, the owner is usually 40 to 50% faster and more efficient than the laborer that they hire. And then they get very frustrated, they don't make enough profit on the employee, and they go back to being solo because like no one else is gonna work as hard as me. No duh, you own 100% of the business. So the only way to do that is either A, do I split the equity?
Write that down. No duh, nobody owns 100%.
Like, yeah, like you operate as an entrepreneur on 100% commission. Sure. And so how can I make sure that my employees are compensated like I am, and they have the information I have? Because the reason that you work till 8 p.m. to finish the job is because you have the information that tomorrow you have to be on another job site by 6 a.m. And so how do I do this is a matter of pay for performance. So the harder the work, the more money they make. Whether that be a percentage of revenue or a bonus structure that incentivizes them to work hard, and I pay them like an owner. And then the second thing is information of an owner, which is open book management. They know my pricing. They know how much things cost. They see my P&L. They see everything in the business, like everything, no hiding. Like, why would you open up your books? Okay, let's play this out. If you were working for somebody, again, I just try to go back to like, how would you feel? Who are you going to work harder for? Someone that you like or someone you don't like?
Somebody you like, absolutely.
If it's someone I don't like, I'm probably going to actively look for ways to discourage them. I'm going to actively look for ways to tear down their business, make them look bad, etc. So we have agreed that I'm going to work harder for someone that I like. Now, what's the number one way to make sure someone does not like me? Hide things from them. And so then we wonder why our employees don't work hard for us, because they don't like you. And the reason they don't like you is because you're hiding things from them. Because every single day you're trying to hide estimates, you're trying to hide your pricing, you're trying to hide invoices from them. And so if you're going to hide things from your employees, realize that you're bringing down the level of trust inside the organization. They do not like you, they will not work hard for you, and it is a function of we are not giving them the information of an owner, and then we're not paying them like owners.
Yeah, I love that, Yes, got a question from the audience?
That's not a question.
Okay.
I was just gonna, so what we did, being a small company, Larry and I do not install fences. And we brought on Wyatt, but what we did up front was, this is where we want to take the company, these are the goals of the company, these are our values, do you want to join us? And also, it's gonna be hard work, and, we can't promise 40 hours a week right now. But I feel like that really helped us as a team. Like, we are all in this together. To share that with him up front and bring him on board, like, fully open, like you said. And I share my KPIs with you and with him every single week.
Amazing, I
Yeah.
like that, yeah. Anybody else?
I think one of the main reasons why I decided to start my own business was room to grow, opportunity. So I think it's important to make that person, like Mike was saying, you're invested in this company, you grow as we grow, you probably don't want to be installing forever. As we grow, you can start doing sales and we'll get somebody else to do installs. And I feel like that kind of makes that person feel invested in the business.
Right.
To where one, they want to do well because they know the better they do it, a higher chance of growing. Plus, retention-wise, makes them feel invested.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick around because I know someday I'm not going to be installing forever. Someday I want to be selling. I want to be running the business.
Yeah.
I think that's.
I liked what he said, finding out their goals, what they want. So for one of our team members, I found out that his goal was to buy a brand new truck. And this year he bought himself a brand new Chevy Colorado.
Nice.
And I couldn't have been happier that he showed up in that truck. Maybe I wouldn't have the payments, but that's beside the point. But he was able to achieve his goal.
Josh, I just had the exact same experience. We all congratulate Mark Moore on buying that house. And Mr. Dave Dunke also is a homeowner now. Yeah.
We also established that Eric's gonna throw Rolexes at people next year. I'm listening to the panel and I'm getting emotional too, because I remember when I went into business, it's because I was working for a company where everything was hidden, I had no idea, I had to search for the answer. I was like, why don't I just do this myself, right? I was super motivated to just be able to make more money and buy my time back, even though I didn't really understand that concept when I first started. I was a solopreneur for a while. But being very specific, being very open, that's leadership. If you guys know the name John C. Maxwell, anybody? John C. Maxwell? One of my biggest takeaways from his book on leadership was leadership is about influence, how you can really influence. And a lot of that is just through being transparent and helping them see what's in it for them. If you want that unicorn, what's important to that unicorn? More money, act like an owner, all that kind of stuff. Well, okay, cool. Here's the path to success. Here's the path to your goal. So I really like that takeaway. I'm going to open it up for some general questions from the audience, because I really don't want to hog up the question part of things, and I can see that people want to ask me specific questions. So, does anybody want to ask the panel some specific questions? Maybe you're at a certain place, maybe you haven't hired somebody yet, and you're looking to do that. Anybody? Carrie?
Yeah.
Can you stand up?
Yep.
And I'm going to pass you the mic.
Okay, well, I'm a recruiter by day, so this hiring thing I kind of know, but, we've hired and we've fired, so we do all of those things. He's very good about being transparent, sharing all of those things, maybe oversharing sometimes for me, but he's great, he's awesome. How do you get the right person, though? And again, I'm a recruiter. We struggle getting the right person. And you hire somebody, you do all of these things, but it becomes clear they're not the right person. So it's very deflating to have to then start that whole process, all over again. So we're in those ebbs and flows right now.
If I may, so I failed my first quite a few hires, and I'm not from the South, but my wife, she gets these feelings, and so I actually involved her near the process of hiring, and I'm telling you, when she got a feeling that he was wrong, or then we passed, and she got a feeling that one guy was right, and he's been a rock star. Again, he bought himself a brand new truck. I mean, he promotes my business better than I promote it. Okay, and the second guy, she got a good feeling about him. I mean, I did my interview process. I did all my systems for hiring, and I just kind of, for me, that's what I did.
I think sometimes you just get that, like, your feeling of desperation, like, I've got to have some help. This guy's willing to do it for that price. He's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things, and then, okay, let's do it. Let's partner up, and then it doesn't work, and it's like, okay, fine, we'll just do it ourselves. We tried that. We're just gonna stay here, and so.
You gotta get Josh's wife.
Right. Well, I have those feelings. I have that intuition as well, and again, I don't know. I think there's also a part of it like, okay, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, or they're young, they're just getting started, or I don't know.
Eric's told me several times, man, he's got it right. You gotta hire and fire 10 people before you find a good one. So it's
Hire fast, fire faster.
yeah.
Yeah, I say the goal shouldn't be to hire one person, it's to fire 10.
Good.
I mean, sometimes it takes that many to get, just when you need only one solid guy that you're hoping to make a career with, which is what a lot of you are trying to do. It might take 10 people. Casey went through a gang of them before he found one month per person. I'm sure Mike can talk on it better than I can, but you burn through people before you find a really quality person. So let's go some better group members.
Well, what's the time frame that you typically give somebody to figure out, okay, is this guy going to work or not? Because it's going to take 2 or 3 or 4 months, for training. At what point should they get to that level where you can kind of let go of the reins, and at what point do you realize, okay, this is not going to work? Is that after 4 weeks? Is it after 12 weeks? Is it after 4 or 5 months? I mean, what's typical?
So, depending on what level, I mean, there's going to be, if the guy can't hand me a Phillips head screwdriver on day one, we already messed up. So yeah, there's going to be different levels of our indicators that we're heading in the right direction. Is it malicious? Is it accidental? Is it just that he can't add 1 + 1? All those little things. But if he's continuing to grow, then I'm going to keep going. But in general, I would like to say that we could train a guy and he should be fully able to go out on his own in about 2 months.
I'm curious, I want to follow up on that. Is there something that we could all do in our hiring process to kind of, be a little bit better when we select the right person so that we don't have to always burn through 10 to get one?
Give them more money.
What is the answer, right?
Yeah, I think the thing for me for hiring is I hate being at the mercy of anything. I hate being at the mercy of the labor market. I hate being at the mercy of a good or bad employee. I hate being at the mercy of anything. And so my question is how do I operationalize getting a better employee? Well, if I can make more money in the business and then be able to pay $10 to $15 more per hour than everyone else in my competition, I will attract a better employee. And so I can control that. I can control the circumstances and grow the business enough to be able to afford $10 to $15 more per hour. You will attract the best laborers in your market. If the average landscaper is getting $20 an hour and you're offering $35, you will get the best. You'll get the people that could literally be an electrician or a plumber. They'll be now working for you. And especially in this industry, in my opinion, where you all can make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a technician, I don't believe that we should be nickel and diming the compensation. Because the difference between an all-star, excellent team member like he has that makes, can I guess, $800,000 almost by themselves, $700,000 in terms of revenue annually?
Oh.
For the business?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can make $600,000, $700,000 a technician, and we're wondering, well, is it $5 more per hour or $6? That's $10,000 a year. That's 2%.
Yeah.
And that's a difference between an all-star and someone you would burn through a bunch of times, or maybe just $200,000 or $300,000 a year. And so the vast majority of all-stars, they can produce 2 to 3 times more than a B player. And so if you want to attract all-stars, pay like they're all-stars, because you'll attract a completely different demographic. So if I'm tired of people not showing up to interviews, I'm tired of them burning through after one day, they don't know anything about the job, they're completely useless, build a business, and this industry is perfect for it, that you can afford to pay them more. And then offer that in a hiring ad, and you will attract a different type of employee. And so like I've hired everywhere from entry-level people out in the field mowing grass or answering the phone at our command center, and those are $20, $25 an hour. I've hired people for $400,000 plus, engineers, etc. The type of person is just totally different. A great engineer, like a 10x engineer, is literally going to produce 10 times more code than an entry-level engineer. And an engineer entry-level is still gonna be 100 grand. So would I pay $400,000 for a 10x return compared to someone else who's $100,000 but produces a tenth of the work? And so I truly believe if you're trying to attract all-stars, because we all want them, you're gonna have to pay for it. And so to think that you're gonna nickel and dime or be competitive in the market and get great employees is asinine. So I genuinely believe, especially in this industry where you all can do really, really high level revenue per technician, I would try to do everything in my power to be paying $10 more per hour than anyone else in the market for general labor. If you do that, you will tap into a completely different marketplace and you will attract all-stars.
Yeah, it's funny, my business coach told me the same thing, I didn't believe her. She's like, just put that out and put that on there, I mean, you have no obligation to hire, anything like that. And I did it, and I was like, holy crap, there are a lot better people. I didn't do the 10, I did it at 5 when I brought it back up to 10, but yeah, he's very right about that. You got a hand up?
Yeah, so we just hyper-focus on the front end, basically vetting the people that we're gonna hire. So we look at their social media, we do an in-depth phone screen before we bring them in for an in-person interview. And the in-person interview is pretty in-depth. And then we hyper-focus on character above skill set, because I feel like I can teach somebody how to do solid fits. I cannot teach them to be a good person.
That's excellent. Carrie, with your ads, are you advertising, did you pay them per foot? Like, how do you, what is the compensation say in the ad?
I think we just gave a range, and it was on Indeed.
Per hour.
Per hour range.
I was gonna say, I think the problem with the big the whole, if you put out, you can make, $2 a foot, no one knows what that means.
Right.
They don't know that means $100 an hour.
Right.
Or it would be, right?
Yeah.
$80 an hour. That's cool, but the scholars who are making $2 a foot, they get paid shockingly amount
Right.
per hour.
Yeah.
If you don't phrase it that way, no one knows that.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, and I like what you said, it's like we can teach the skill, but I want the character, and that's exactly, how we went through that process. But very quickly, well, I don't know very quickly, I think very quickly we identified they weren't
Not
teachable.
Not teachable.
But it took us a little bit to really make that decision to move forward with letting them go.
Is that that you felt bad? Is that part of it?
Did we feel bad?
Yeah, you feel bad. You hired them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's the thing, you're doing them a favor. They're not meant for you. They're bad at this job, and you're holding them hostage. You need to let them go and find what they're good at. And the longer you torture them for this thing they're bad at, you're doing them a disservice.
The longer you torture them at this thing, the
You
more.
are. They're good at something, and it's not you. And the longer you hold them hostage, you're
Yeah.
you should be happy to let them go.
Yeah.
Well, it was a sigh of relief when we did, it was just biting the bullet to do it, but it definitely was the right decision.
Mark, your hand went up?
Yeah, I just got a question as far as like the hiring things I've been doing nothing but nightmares lately. And it's because I have an urgency issue.
Yeah.
I'm married to my service route on my pool side. So if I don't have a service guy, I'm doing it, which means I'm not doing estimates, I'm not doing leads, I'm not installing fences. Fences are going on weekends only. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, what am I supposed to do as like a good step for initial hiring process? Because I got Indeed, I review the applications, but at that point it's like I talk to them over the phone, I do a working interview, and I'm like, okay, you're good to go. I'm clearly missing something because I'm jumping into it too quickly. I don't think I'm asking the right questions. Maybe I'm not finding out what they're looking out of the job, and I'm just getting the first capable guy who's ready to go. And it's backfiring, and it's like it's been going on 6 months. And I'm fed up with it.
And now you're desperate.
Yeah, I'm going back home to fire another person to start over again. So,
For that guy, just run background checks.
Josh knows the backstory.
but is it, should I make them like, write me something, like give me a response of what they're looking to get out of the company and like try to find out what their story is before I jump into the working interview?
Do you have multiple applicants that you wish, so, out of, hopefully 10 or 20 that reach out to you, have like 3 or 5 that you like? Or are you just finding one at a time, hoping that guy's gonna work
There's
out?
like 5 that actually filled out all the questions on their interview that I'm like, okay, at least they followed instructions. Maybe I'm now, what's the next step? What do I ask them to do? Like a phone interview or send me something that says why they want to be a good fit for the job or?
So when you look at like the sales process, you have someone's a prospect, they become a lead when they submit information, and then you try to close them and become a customer, right? There's your sales process: prospect, lead, and then a customer. When it comes to your current position, you have people that are potentially interested, applicants, and then you have interviewees, and then you have employees. Where are we dropping off? Are you getting a whole bunch of applicants, or is that like there's not very many applicants coming in?
They're not following instructions on and they're not even filling out all the questions. So it's obviously they're a no-go.
Or let's take extreme ownership of this. Or is the application process hard to follow? Is it cumbersome? Is it meeting them where they're at technology-wise? Like if I'm attracting a laborer and I'm asking them to make videos and submit a link, for example, not saying you are, that could be very difficult for them. And so there's software to fix some of these problems. It's a matter of talking to people when they come in and asking for an interview. Where in this process was it a little bit confusing for you? I guarantee you have an answer. Well, I couldn't really figure out, like on your website, did you want me to submit the resume there or on Indeed? Did you want me to submit a PDF, or did you want me to just come in with my resume? There's 100 questions that they have that are leading to them, in the end, you thinking they're not a good fit, when in reality, like, this business doesn't have their stuff together. Or they made it hard, like, it's like when you're trying to get, like, the other day, I was trying to pay someone. I'm like, how hard is it just to pay you? And they're like, I just want to come work for you, you have an ad up. Like, I'm not saying this is you, by the way. I'm saying, this is their feeling is like, you making it hard to work for you. Like, I have to submit a video, I have to do a PDF, I have to fill out all this form. Like, what is the friction in the process that's creating a prospect not to become a lead and a lead not to become a customer? Is the same exact reason where there is friction in the process of taking an applicant, turning them into an interviewee, and then turning them into an employee. And so looking at the sales process, most of us are good at it. Like, get back to the customer fast, be happy on the phone, get the price to them in a timely manner, etc. The same thing is true with interviewees. And so if applicants is not the constraint, and you're like, well, and they're not getting to my interview, or like they're not qualified when I get the interview, then it's just like extreme ownership is like, why? And I would be asking myself, like, stepping into your interview process as an interviewee, I would be stepping into your Indeed ad as an applicant. Like, why would I even read the second line? Like, the vast majority of our job postings stink, like stink. And so if you actually analyze it from the position of I'm a $20, $30 an hour employee, I'm looking for something I think part-time, I think is gonna be a 1-year gig max. Okay, how do I hook that person in? Or you're talking about like the philosophy of the business and missions and core values, and like, I just want a job.
Yeah.
And so,
you even answer the question like, do you have a clean driving record and are you willing to work weekends? I'm like, you can't even answer those 2 questions, so like, why do I want to talk to you? If they can't even answer 2 questions as the basic, are you going to be at least a fit for that?
have you ever filled out an Indeed application?
No. So maybe I shouldn't
Start with that, because even those 2 questions are ones that are very easy to skip over.
Okay.
Yeah.
You learn that the hard way.
Yeah, like put on your applicant glasses, put like a 25-year-old version of you, and then go into your Indeed ad and fill it out. And you're like, oh man, that's kind of confusing. Oh, there's a lot of text. Oh, it's not very clear like what's in it for them. It's all about the company. They don't care about the company, right? So things like that.
Okay, appreciate it.
Like I said, they don't care about the company unless they know that who they're going to work for cares about them, and that's kind of the whole process to do that. I did have a question. I know that you had a question about that, but I was going to kind of move into it. The question I wanted to ask is, how do you maintain motivation and focus during periods of slower growth, setbacks, or the seasonality challenges that we have? So we kind of went into that, and I would like to kind of get back there because we're all in the service industry, and there's a lot of states in here where we have rough winters, right? And it's really, really hard to do anything pole fence, and even some other stuff. So how do you maintain motivation and leadership through those slower or hard setbacks? I would like to hear from the rest of the panel.
So as far as seasonality, at least for our area, we're in Dallas. So usually by Thanksgiving, it gets colder, and people worry about, Christmas and New Year's. They're not going outside as much, so forever, things slow it down. It doesn't stop, but it slows it down. And then typically by, February, March, whenever spring comes, starts warming up, starts getting busy again. This is how it's always been. After COVID, we had a surge and it didn't slow down. We've been going, 24/7 since then, but this is the first year they're starting to go back to normal. It's how it's always been. We kind of expect it. It's kind of nice slowing it down a little bit, recharging, because we know come March it's gonna get really busy again. And so I think all the guys too, they also do a lot of the prepping, a lot of the, they're just improving during the downtime. So that's when I think use that little downtime to improve things within the business. And so, but yeah, part of it it's how it's always been. Certain things you can't change. So.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, so how do you maintain motivation for your team, even for yourself sometimes, during these setbacks and seasonalities?
Yeah, obviously I'm here in, South Florida. I don't have much of a season. Actually, if I was to say, what is my season? It's actually kind of inverse from literally everywhere else in the country. I kind of slow down in the summertime. And which isn't bad because it's brutal, it's hot. So, I'm just doing the math. I'm probably doing 60, 75,000 feet a year, right, roughly. And, so Christian, my lead guy, would always kind of freak out a little bit when it would get slow. But I would have to, remind him and myself that we're making 200,000 miles a year, give or take. So it's okay if if we slow down a little bit. But I guess to how do you keep the motivation? It is tough because when it slows down, as you know from some of our conversations, yeah, it's anxiety. Like, what is Eric doing? Like, we're not getting any leads. It's always Eric's fault, by the way.
And we all agree with that. The greatest takeaway is just the flood of
to keep the motivation is hard. It's tricky, and so I don't know the answer to that question, but I always just, you kind of got to step back and look at the bigger yearly, monthly, picture, weekly, even like, hey, we just, we had 2 jobs on the day, and this one canceled. This one I went through 3 bits. There goes that.
Yeah.
So we totally lost money today. But you can't freak out about that because it's not about the day. It's about the week. It's not about the week. It's about the month. It's not about the month. It's about the year. I don't know. That's how I.
What if the motivation is on the owner? Just like the gentleman from Alabama was saying, I'm losing money. I'm trying to keep that full-time guy. What are some things that maybe you can do to take extreme ownership, right, during those moments of negative revenue or negative profit? Are there things that you can do throughout the year to kind of prepare for that? And if so, what do you do? What are some of maybe your tips and tricks to doing that?
Yeah, so I mean, in San Diego, it doesn't get super cold, but it is seasonal. We don't completely shut down or anything in the wintertime, but we have pool service and we have the fence. And pretty much between like October, November through March, April, it's much slower to the point that you start to get worried again when the phone's not ringing, when the leads, we're used to X amount of leads per month and it slows down. You start to get a little nervous. Without getting into too much, we shift. So I prepare by shifting for what we do for the winter times. So we have other services, other add-ons that we promote, and we shift our marketing to do that, so that we can keep the guys busy. We cross-train each other so that if one side of the business gets a little heavier, then the fence technician can go over there, or the pool technician can go over to the fence. And so we do enough to stay busy. For motivation for us and the team, I actually plan all of our events and our trips. This last winter, I took them fishing. We went bowling. We went to a baseball game. I try to find, I go ahead and spend the money to have fun with these guys, because next summer I remind them we're gonna get super busy. We're gonna work 10, 12 hours a day, and that's actually more of a harder motivator for me than when it gets slow, because they're still getting paid.
And in the summer, it's 100 degrees outside. We're doing.
Can't touch the fence.
A bunch of jobs.
And it's humid in Texas too, so it's 100 degrees plus. Can't stop sweating.
And so that kind of, in the back of your mind, okay, well, we got a few more months and then we're gonna have a little off season. If anything, that's a little, I know from a business standpoint, making less money is not ideal. But at the same time, you can't burn out by, doing 75,000 feet every year.
I'm ballparking.
It's kind of nice having, a month or two of downtime so you can, better yourself and just recharge the batteries.
Interesting to hear from you, sir.
Yeah, in terms of motivation, I don't think about motivation very much. But in terms of the off season, my goal is to win, and to win any game, a good strategy is to be on the offense when everyone else is playing defense. And because we take it for granted that there is an off season and that we're supposed to slow down for 3, 4, 5, 6 months out of the year, all the competition is as well. And so if you can figure out a way to be able to advertise when no one else is, to hire people when no one else is, to get customers when no one else can, you will win this game. And that's how you become very big and you dominate a market. And so, I know I keep referring to it, but today from 4:30 to 6, the presentation I made, it took me 6 months to make the presentation. It's 500 slides, and it's gonna walk through 5 ways to do this. So I don't wanna go into it too much, but that is what the presentation's about, and it will solve this problem, and that is off season. We should not, an off season is a curse word. It is what keeps this industry poor.
It is. I heard this. Your off season is not an emergency. There shouldn't be an emergency, right? Well, we're about 15 minutes out, so really quick, we're just going to close it up. What's one piece of advice everybody on this panel can give to everybody else about scaling their business? The mindset around scaling, what does it mean, and how did you scale your business?
I mean, going back to when I first started, and it was by yourself, and Eric's brother was, going to bail me out, and then it's kind of like just jumping off a ledge, which we're all used to that as entrepreneurs. I mean, you kind of jump off a ledge every day. But yeah, I mean, you just kind of got to go for it. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think that's the biggest thing for me was just, kind of a leap of faith, if you will, and it's daunting, it's scary, but you just got to kind of do it. And what's the worst case, I guess,
I care about the little stuff a lot more than the actual homeowner does. So to me, that was the biggest thing. Just telling myself, it's okay to let go. It will get done. It will be safe. It'll all work out. And yeah.
That's good. That's good. I was thinking about that last night, so yeah. Sure.
Quicker you let go, you can do more jobs and you can scale up and you can, be out
You
and
gotta
selling.
kind of you gotta kind of relinquish a little bit of that
You
to,
gotta be willing to do that.
to your guys, yeah. And it's not gonna be perfect, but you just gotta kind of, trust that you've set it up properly and, yeah.
Well, and that's one thing that kind of stops a lot of solopreneurs from scaling up, from growth and then scaling is the fear that, you hire someone, they're not gonna do it right, or the clients are gonna no longer trust your company because they can't generate the 5-star reviews. So, how did you overcome that, Dennis, when you're like, you know what, I'm already capped out, I'm burning out, I know you have a full-time job too, right? So, what was your mindset? Like, what did you have to do to shift the mindset and say, you know what, I'm gonna go for it, and these are the things I have to do.
It's a little both. It's one, you gotta find somebody that you trust, right? But it's also, leap of faith. Hey, let me let go, let's see how it goes. And when it goes well, if that person's good.
Josh Parks.
So I'm not as hard-headed as you. I only failed 4 businesses. Not, and really what it was is on this round, working with a coach, I needed systems. And that's, you can't scale anything. I like home brewing beer. You can't take a home brew beer recipe and go mass produce it for everyone. That beer will not taste the same. So you have to scale the recipe. And so the systems have to scale to the size of your goal of how big you want to create your organization, your team. And so that's what I've worked on and been working on for years with you is what we begin with the end in mind of what I envision this to be 10, 15 years from now. And we're working on those systems that can grow with that, from systems of sales to systems of hiring to systems of, I learned a new thing, off-season is now a 4-letter word, I like that. So, creating those systems that are repeatable and easy to, they're not so complicated either, that a technician can't, I don't know what to do because the recipe's too complicated, we can go in. So that's what I'd say is make sure you have good systems inside of your business that are scalable to the size that you want. Maybe you don't want to be, X big, but.
Awesome. Mike, you obviously scaled your business pretty big.
So if the 4L framework, which we just talked about, is the thing that you have to go through to grow, I think that the reason that most people don't scale their business is because they focus on everything but the constraint that they're actually facing in the moment. And so I actually agree with David that to him, this is actually the hiring thing, not relevant, because that's not his constraint, right? The constraint in his growth and his scaling up is leads. And so I'm going to preface and come to the last one here. Cool. I don't want anyone to hate on David, all right? I appreciate you speaking up. Because that fiery passion and the hate for the constraint that you're currently having in the business is a thing that will fuel the change that you need to have in the business to actually overcome the obstacle and that constraint. So in order to fix a hiring problem, you might have to change your Indeed ads, right? To fix the constraint of leadership, you might have to change the way you have your culture set up and to be able to attract managers and all-stars. To fix a lead constraint, I might have to change the way I advertise. I might have to change the way I do my branding. I might have to change the way I do my Facebook ads. I might have to change the way I do my website. And so to relinquish control to any other human being or entity outside of yourself based upon the constraint that you have in the business is the reason why we as small business owners stay small. The reason we do not grow is because we put on the economy, the administration, a franchisor, a dealership, a customer, someone else has power over us as to why we cannot overcome the current constraint of the business, whether that be liquidity, leads, labor, or leadership. And ultimately, someone has figured this out. In every industry, someone has built a 10, 50, $100 million business. It's possible. So once we identify that it is possible, we have to realize the only reason it's not happening for you is because of you. And I speak here as a franchisor and a franchisee. So it's not Eric's fault. I know what it's like to be Eric, because I have 170 people that point to me, and it's always Mike's fault. I'm also a franchisee. I own Anytime Fitness. And so I know what it's like to also want to point at someone else. And as soon as I give power to someone else based upon the constraint I have in my business, I will not overcome that constraint. And so if you're having trouble with leadership, if you're having trouble with getting laborers, if you're having trouble with leads, if you're having trouble with liquidity, to relinquish power to any other human being outside of yourself is asinine, because someone's figured this out. There's a formula to get employees. There's a formula to get leads. There's a formula to be able to attract laborers. And so taking ownership of that is the first step, and then get relentlessly religious about just attacking it, and only that. And so that's why it's not a bad idea, to David's point, to not listen to about figuring out labor constraints or leadership constraints, because he needs to figure out sales. And he needs to get more leads. And so I would put all my time, energy, passion, and anger towards figuring out that skill.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Amazing.